for kids today and in the future. So I have a guest. She is like a beautiful human being. Her name is Diane McConnell. She is an author. She is an educator. She's a mental health expert, and she has had a very, very challenging, some very challenging experiences in her life that have created in her capacity that she didn't know existed. So Diane, we're going to talk to you about your experiences, about your book, those kind of things. So where do you want to start?
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Diane.
It's great. It's great to be here. I feel so privileged that you invited me to come and have this conversation with you. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. Maybe we could start by just giving a little bit of context around me, like who I am and maybe why you invited me to come here. How about that?
Yes, excellent.
Perfect. So I am long-standing educator. I started my career as a teacher, taught in the classroom for, 14 years. And then married, and I started to have a family, and based on the experience of having the family, I kind of started into the world of Alberta Health Services. My home is in Alberta, and my children were born premature, two of them, two boys. I shouldn't say all of my children, two boys, premature. So we quickly kind of entered into a life of what it was like to have a health services person close at hand and nearby. As the boys grew and they became 1 and then 2 years of age, some complexities started to surface. My youngest was referred at a year of age to the Boston, Massachusetts Eye and Ear Institute because of retinal disease. And we traveled 31 times with him for eye surgeries, and the end result was that he had his eyes removed. So at the age of 3, I was the mom of a totally blind little boy, and that kind of freaked me out. I left teaching at that point, and I went back to university like kind of a teacher-minded person would do. If I didn't know the answer, I'm sure it's in the cognitive grasp of learning. So back to university I went to find out what it would be like as a teacher to be teaching a child with a pretty significant visual impairment or even blindness like my son. So I had a big change in career path from there. And then the journey just kind of continued and evolved, and my two boys had one anomaly after the other. I got deeper into the world of supporting children from an educational perspective in terms of managing severe disabilities in the educational environment. But inherent in this big journey, I had lots of personal learnings, which led me to writing the book. Yeah, and I guess for the purpose of the audience and this conversation, the book happened after the experience of losing the two boys. So their journey was really complex. There was a number along the way with respect to both of them. Some pretty significant events that happened. And 2 years ago, we lost our youngest boy, and the year before that, we lost the older boy.
Wow.
So I wrote the book.
Yes.
And the book is about, could this be grace? Because it was the question that I asked myself along the way to say, why is this happening to us? Perhaps we were chosen for this to happen, and that there is something that we need to learn, and there's a gift that we need to be giving and supporting others that might be experiencing adversity. So could this be grace? and it really helped me frame it in a very positive, hopeful way. And the subtitle is Seeing Possibility in the Face of Adversity, which is exactly, I feel like, when I look backwards, what my family and myself did. We saw, oh, this is happening to us, but what are the good things that can happen? What are the things that can make every single day meaningful and helpful and exciting and absolutely worthwhile, so we're excited to get up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So there was lots of learnings in that.
Yeah.
And
what a challenging time to maintain such a, like, an optimistic, or at least an open type of, I'm curious to what's going to happen next, right? A welcoming of whatever's coming down the road, kind of a thing, almost, right?
Yeah, I had this real strong sense in myself that I could do this, that I was picked to do this, and I was going to be the very best at it that I possibly could. So I was really trying to figure out what it meant to be a good mom. I was trying to figure out what it meant to be a really good educator, perhaps leader in the field, and that made every single day worthwhile. And it's really hard for me to put the context around this as you asked me the question, because the journey was 25 years and it was really, really complicated. And there are two stories, because I had two boys and I have three children. So I had an older daughter, which added some complexity to the whole thing in terms of family and what does that mean. And so it's really hard to give you an executive summary of what that is. You got to read the book.
That is good. It's only fair. And when is the book being released?
I'm hoping that it will be released soon. It's in its very final stages of in the publication journey, which was a really kind of intriguing experience for me. But I just approved 2 weeks ago the final layout, which means in my brain that once I've approved it, then it goes to print. And I'm hoping that in September I'll see the copies arrive.
Got it. And you're going to sell paper copies and electronic copies. Got it.
You betcha.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
And I'm also setting up a website.
A website.
So that's right. And I would hope that I can connect with parents. I hope I can connect with some teachers. I'd love to connect with healthcare providers in terms of supporting them in the work that they do, because absolutely it's beautiful work, but in and of itself, there are challenges, and it can be really hard work.
Oh, definitely. If the people that do that work, the compassion fatigue that is part of that, it's huge, right? I mean, you really have to be very cognizant of your self-care and looking after yourself. Like, as when you, like, with the challenges that you were working through, and with the news, as an example, when your first son lost his eyesight when he was 3 years old, I mean, man, the adjustments to make that, to just kind of live on every day kind of a thing and move forward, were huge, right? Very tough. Your other son, wait a minute, the first son who lost his vision at age 3, what was his name?
My older son was Eric.
Eric.
And the younger was Ben. And Ben, the younger one, had both his eyes removed, and Eric, the older one, lost vision in one eye.
Lost vision in one eye, had vision in one eye. Okay, got it.
That's right.
And then Eric and Ben, how old did they live before they passed?
34 was Eric, and 30 was Ben.
34 and 30. Wow. Whew. Okay. What a challenging circumstance to be a parent under those circumstances. So describe for me, tell me what grace is. You've written a book on it. You know all about it. How do you perceive grace?
Well, I really believe that number one, everything happens for a reason. That the things that are in front of you are there because you're meant to learn something. And if you don't learn what it is that you're meant to learn, then there's something that comes in front of you that gets a little bit louder, that gets a little bit bigger, that helps you move through that learning that you're supposed to acquire on the journey towards self-actualization.
Okay.
So really finding out who you are, what it means to be human, how to be with respect to do as a human being. And I think grace is that opportunity every single day to do the things or learn the things that we're meant to learn.
Got it. Okay, so we all have a reason for being here. There's that we're to follow. That if we want to live our best life, we have a path to follow that's there for us. We have to be aware of that path, and then the opportunity to come back and try every day, even if you might be beaten up and bloodied. That's grace. That's the opportunity to have another go at it, kind of a thing, and contribute and learn from what you can learn about it. Yes.
Right. So do you want me to give you a story to illustrate that point?
If I would love that, if you would.
When I was teaching, I had an idea or a belief in my heart of what it meant to be a good teacher. And if I were to summarize that, I would say that a good teacher knows what to do. So every student that is in their classroom that graces their presence, the teacher knows what to do to reach and teach that child. And that was my measure and my marker of being a good teacher. And then I had Ben, that was a blind student, and I didn't know what to do or what it meant to be a good teacher. So I went back to university and I studied in terms of what it would mean to be a teacher for a blind student. And I had a belief in my mind that if I knew the right strategies, the right program, or the right processes for him as a teacher, then he would acquire the skills that he would need to have to be existing in the world as a sighted person. He could perform and be present, and no one would really recognize that he was blind. And for me, that was my belief in terms of being a good teacher. And so when I kind of was following that journey and chasing that dream in university, and I wasn't finding the answer, and I kept going forward, I ended up in the PhD program, still looking for this answer. And when I did my research and I was interviewing successful blind adults about their school experience, thinking, I can't find the answer. Maybe they can tell me. They're successful blind adults. They're going to be telling me what it was in school that helped them get to that point. And what I learned is that it really didn't have anything to do with being in the world as a blind, pretend to be sighted person. It had to do with relationships and acceptance of this differentness that was blindness, and that a blind person's life is different from my life, but it doesn't mean it's less than my life.
Right.
And it really opened my eyes, and I said, oh my gosh, I have this belief about my son, which really says I don't accept him, and being blind isn't good enough. You need to be so skilled that I wouldn't know that you're blind. And I really started to see him as a person, and I recognized I haven't connected with you. I'm missing the joy, and I haven't been curious about what it means to be blind. And I connected with him in a way that I had never connected with him before, and was curious about his blindness. And then I encouraged him to be curious about sighted. And we just had these parallel journeys that we shared together, and each one was as valuable as the other. So that's a really good example of what I'm talking about in terms of could this be grace?
Excellent. Makes really good sense. That we look at something different, and usually with fear, right, of something different, or at least uncomfortableness, with, let's call it that. And in your case, you got to the place where you could just kind of embrace that difference and find the beauty or the best parts of that difference. Would that be a fair statement? Am I kind of?
That's That's totally true, and really instill in the person that they have a contribution to make, and that they belong, and that they're valued, and that they're important. And for my son, I mean, as a blind student, he loved school, and he was an academic, and he had a very, very good view of his capabilities. He had lots of confidence, lots of self-esteem. And I mean, I want to share, he went on to travel. I mean, he joined Rotary. He ended up going to Brazil as a blind student. He went to university down in Ottawa. He did a little co-op exchange in Scotland for a year. He came back, he went to Victoria into law school, and he actually articled, and he went to the bar. So before he passed, he was a lawyer. And yet, along that journey in his university career, he never once had a semester where he didn't have a significant hospital stay. Broken limbs, seizures, respiratory problems, and yet, boom, he bounced back and did his studies, and he was away from home. And so I think it's a really powerful message in terms of instilling in an individual, you are valued. I see you, you have a contribution to make, and wow, I am happy you are here.
Yeah. And I mean, really, the you did for not being sighted to be able to pull that off and even travel, right? There's a lot of non-sighted people that probably never believe that they can do any of those things because they don't have a Diane saying, yes, you can. Yes, you're enough. Yes, get out and get it done, right? There's a reason for you being there, right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's in the end, you know, a parent should never lose a child. That should never happen. That's not the way it's supposed to happen ever, right? I mean, you know, they're supposed to be burying us, not the other way around. So that still had to be a horrendous thing for you to kind of come to terms with, I guess. What made that what made that a way that you could move forward? How did you deal with that? That's what I'm trying to get at, I guess. I don't know how I could deal with that, actually, if I lost a child. I'm not sure if that is a very difficult to recover from, I believe, even for a relationship to recover from, right?
Well, I think the word recover doesn't fit.
Okay.
Because I would say, have I recovered? No. I mean, it's like a little bit of a roller coaster. There are things that happen, and I have this huge wave that comes over me where I miss them terribly.
Sure.
But I mean, having said that, I mean, and at their celebrations, Roy and I, my husband, we did a tribute to each one of them. And I spent a lot of time putting it together and writing about it. And really the whole message was how valuable that, and how valuable and also privileged that I felt as a mother and a human being, that I was gifted with their presence and with the things that they had to offer and the things that I learned and the people that we met and the experiences that we had. And I'm so grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And so, and I feel like the book is a way to kind of share that. And as tragic as it feels in my life, and how deeply painful it is not to have them here, there are so many other great things. I mean, so many great things that
yes, exactly,
that we were touched. And I had a really wonderful story that somebody shared with me, and it was if you had the experience where there was an amount of money, and I can't remember what it was, $86,000 or something like that. Every single day when you woke up was deposited in your bank account. And at the end of the day, it was wiped out. So you had it to spend. So spend it, spend it, spend it. And if you don't spend it, it's gone. And the next day you get another 86,000. This is the story. And what would you do with that? And then you never know if you wake up one morning, if in fact that money's going to be there or not. The bank might decide, nope, not giving it to you. Mm-hmm. And then the story goes on to say that's how many minutes or seconds there are in 24 hours.
Right.
So every single day when you wake up, you're gifted these seconds. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when you go to bed, they're gone. You don't get them back. So you can't bank them and put them in a savings account, and then you get the same amount the next day. And how are you going to spend them? And you don't know tomorrow if you're going to have them. So to me, that was a really powerful story to say, holy cow, we better wake up today and make this the very best day that we possibly can.
Definitely.
And
this gift
celebrate. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. That's for sure. Wow.
Yeah, and we really did that with our boys.
Yes.
We did lots of stuff, and I believe in my heart we normalized the situation. We ran our day like we would run our day, and if we needed to take machines and stuff with us, we went. I mean, Ben in his final months he was on ventilator, we were managing that. We still took him to restaurants. He still threw up at the table. We cleaned it up, finished our meal, out we went. I feel like we really did that. So how can I can't help but feel grateful for that.
Right.
And privileged.
Right. Yes. What an experience you've had with your desire, your writing the book is a way that you have of sharing that experience with others who might be going through very similar ones, and to give them some hope and to give them a different perspective to look at the situation they're in. Because I'm sure a lot of times there's some people that would look at on as very resentful. Like, why did this happen to me? Well, that's what you started with, right? That's where everybody would start with. Why did this happen with me? Probably there's a lot of people that never get beyond that, right? It's just, there's a lot of resentment and do what they have to do in the circumstance they're in, but not be very engaged or thankful for sure about it, right? Would that be a fair statement? I would think that most people would be in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yes. But you, with your optimism, with your dedication, with your zest for life, you said, no, that's not how we roll. This is how we roll. We're going to
No.
Our boys are going to have the best life they possibly can. They're going to have all the experiences we can provide for them. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your book again is coming out.
The book.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so the book really walks you through a little bit of a journey with know yourself and really understand what your belief system is, because your belief system drives your decisions. And so I share a little bit about how I went, oh, I didn't realize that's what I thought, which isn't really what I should have thought. And then I go on to say, and really pay attention to know the other. And don't make these assumptions, and think about what the backstory is and create that compassionate space, because first and foremost, everything is based on relationship. And we can't exist in isolation. We are absolutely dependent on those relationships, and it makes life absolutely worth living. And then I talk about teaching and problems of practice that I perceive teachers face when adversity walks into their classroom, and the things that I myself experienced, but what I see in my work, other teachers experiencing. So I talk about that and some strategies or solutions. And then I do the same thing with healthcare providers. The problems of practice based on all of the stories that we had and the horrific kinds of things that went, what? What? Are you kidding me? And so there was lots of learning. And I mean, the very most powerful story I have, if you would allow me to share it,
please,
was a doctor in the ICU, Ben's doctor, that is a pediatric pulmonary specialist, and she was really amazing. And one of the first things that she did is she recognized that triage for Ben was not a helpful thing. When we had him at home and he was on ventilator, we could recognize when he needed to be hospitalized because we couldn't manage him. And the system insisted that we would take him to emergency, then we'd go through all the questions, and then we'd go through Dr. A, B, C before they'd call ICU, and we would be there 10 hours before he would actually get admitted, and this would repeat. And she said, here's my cell number. You call me, and when you arrive at the hospital, we'll take him straight up to ICU because I know that's where he should be. That's the kind of the nature that we were working with. But in his final month in the ICU, when the decision was made that there would no longer be treatment for him, a different doctor visited us and introduced herself to us as the facilitator of end of life. Hello, I am the facilitator of end of life. And she said to my son, you are dying. And that means that you can't stay here in the ICU anymore. You need to go over to this other facility. Hey, and we're really lucky because there's a bed, so you get to go right away. And it's going to be really quiet over there, and you're not going to suffer. We've got medications, et cetera, and you're never going to go home, but you can bring some stuff from home if you want. And she said, any questions? And she left. And I can't even describe the words to share with you what that experience was like in the presence of my son and what we were going to do now. This doctor, the ICU one that I started telling you about, she came and she said, well, that didn't go well. And she said, Ben is blind, and I know that the chaos of the ICU is comforting to him because he is afraid that somebody won't be there if he gets into kind of distress or trouble. So I'm going to let him stay here. He's going to stay here. And he did. And he had a very peaceful passing. And this doctor came to his celebration, which really impressed me. I went, wow, there's his doctor. Yeah. But she wrote Roy and I a letter. And in the letter, she said, I need to share with you that doctors put up walls, barriers to protect themselves, particularly working with complex cases. But your son and your family broke through that wall for me, and it's made me a better person. And as a result, I'm going to be a way better doctor. And so I thank you for that. Wow. And to me, that's the definition of being versus doing.
Yeah, that's a
so that was my story.
Yeah, that's a beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
And what an amazing exception to a system that is very, as you said about the triage, and this is the step and this is the step and this step. Doesn't matter if they make sense. This is the protocol you follow, right? And
that's right.
This doctor had the courage, the bravery to say, wait a minute, no, this is what we're going to do for Ben, right? So, wow.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Wow.
Not only in the experience that we had, I mean, she's an angel walking the earth, but the thing that was so powerful me is that she recognized in her own self a shift or a change that would help move the planet forward. And she's in a powerful position to be able to do that. And I went, wow, that is being.
So, you know, some would say that is kind of the whole reason for the journey that you and Ben and Roy, what's your other son's name? I'm sorry. The journey you were all on. Eric. The journey you were all on maybe is to make a difference in this one doctor who makes a difference in the healthcare system, who makes a difference in dozens or hundreds of patients for the next 50 years, right? So it's, you know, the connections of making a difference really can go a long ways, can be huge, have payoffs for decades to come, right? So Cool.
Perfect.
And so your experience changed that doctor. Your experience changed you. Obviously, you're you would have been you're much more compassionate, empathetic than you were before being the experience of a parent with an able-bodied parent. Let's put it that way, or a child with no real challenges. Your daughter, where she's in good health and there was no real. It's just a normal type of an experience, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, Diane, any other closing things other stories that we got to share?
My gratitude and my thank you to you, because you're doing this work.
Well,
You're
thank
being, and it's a privilege. I'm so happy I have had the opportunity to connect with you and get to know you. I think you're amazing.
Oh,
so
thank
keep
you so
it
much.
up.
Oh, thank you so much, and I appreciate your words of encouragement. You know what? I think that we can make huge differences. And you correct me if I'm wrong. Violence is really the perpetuation of violence is what results in adverse childhood experiences, results in almost all our social ills. And violence cannot be what we're built for. When you held your boys in your arms, you didn't look at him and say, oh, this kid's going to grow up and want to beat and rape people. There isn't a child that exists that's like that, right? So it can't be that difficult to address violence and give people other opportunities, other tools, other support, so that they don't have to be somebody who uses violence. And if we end people using violence, then we not end them, but if they stop using violence is what I'm trying to say. That sounded like I was going to put a hit on them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if we stop them from using violence, then we stop people from experiencing violence. Life gets better for them. Life gets better for all of us, right? So
that's right. It impacts their belief systems significantly in terms of their view of the world. The world is a scary place. I'm not important. I deserve this. And that just is a really slippery slope into the dark.
Yeah, exactly. And your whole experience with education, with the healthcare system, the injustices, the problems, the challenges, the uncaringness of the system, doing the correction you could or helping guide a bit to a better way happen throughout your process as well, right? Through all of your interactions with the healthcare system too. So that process probably is well enhanced, improved, made for exceptions to be allowed, right? That would make sense. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Diane.
So this was really fun.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Diane. And when you get your book out, let me know so I can share it so people can know where to go buy it. It's your experience. It's great that your experience is going to yield this your advice, your direction, your sharing of your experience that make a difference in people's lives. It's amazing. Diane McConnell, you are a beautiful human being, and I thank you very much for being my friend.
Thank you. Right back at you. You're top of my list.
Okay. Keep well.
See ya.
All right.
You too.